Coming up on Network Africa, Ghanaians go to the polls to elect a new president and 275 members of parliament. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi begins state visit to France. Plus, South African students asked to quarantine after attending super spreader parties. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin today by taking a look at some of the stories that made headlines over the weekend.
On Saturday, Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo held a final rally in Accra ahead of Monday's presidential and parliamentary elections. Akufo-Addo spent a few hours touring parts of Accra where he was met by thousands of supporters before addressing them on stage. Critics say the president has failed to make good on campaign promises, such as a pledge to bring a factory to every district, while the economy remains dogged by high public debt. However, the former lawyer has won public support for his handling of the coronavirus pandemic, which included providing free water and subsidized electricity to households. Supporters also praised his policy in making secondary school education free for all.
Excellency President Abdel Fattah.
Still on Saturday, a decision adopted at the 13th Extraordinary Summit of the AU Heads of State and Government on African Continental Free Trade Area says trading activities under the agreement will start from January 1st, 2021. According to South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, also chairperson of the African Union, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement signals a new era of progress.
The commencement of trading under the AfCFTA on the 1st of January 2021 is one of the most significant milestones in the continental integration project. In the context of global developments on trade, including threats to multilateral system, the treaty is more critical than ever.
Leaders gathered virtually for the summit to discuss the agreement and conflicts, among other issues. Conflicting reports were coming out of Ethiopia on Saturday about the month-long war in the mountainous Tigray region bordering Eritrea. Ethiopia says it has captured or killed most commanders of a rebellious northern force, while Tigray's fugitive local leader said civilians were protesting against looting by occupying soldiers. Neither side gave proof for their claims, but phone communication have been down and access severely restricted, both for media and aid workers. Thousands of people are believed to have died, while more than 46,000 refugees have crossed to neighboring Sudan as the fighting between Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's federal army and forces loyal to the TPLF continues.
To our main stories now, polling stations are open in Ghana as voters elect a new president and 275 members of parliament. President Nana Akufo-Addo is seeking re-election for a second term and faces a challenge from former President John Mahama. Over 17 million Ghanaians are eligible to vote in the elections, where COVID-19 protocols are expected to be strictly enforced. Ghana has had 5 presidents since 1992 and 3 handovers of power, and it is considered as one of the most democratic countries in West Africa. Meanwhile, Ghana's Electoral Commission has called for peace. During and after today's general election, 11 candidates are in the race to unseat President Nana Akufo-Addo, who is also running for a second term. Previous elections have been marred by clashes instigated by vigilantes hired by politicians, but a law passed last year banned vigilantism, making it punishable by a 10-year minimum jail term. Well, President Nana Akufo-Addo has casted his vote as he seeks re-election for a second term. He faces a challenge from former President John Mahama, who has also voted. Now, this is the country's 8th election since the return of multi-party democracy in 1992.
To be a Ghanaian.
I'm happy that the process is going well across the country. It is going peacefully. It only goes to reinforce the commitment that the people of Ghana have made to democratic institutions and democratic processes. And my expectation is that the work that the government has done in these 4 years will find favor with the Ghanaian people today, and that our mandate will be renewed.
Well, some analysts believe that this race is expected to be tight, though commentators say Akufo-Addo has a slight lead based on his performance during this COVID-19 pandemic. Now, for the electorates, they say they are proud to be electing their leader for the next 4 years.
And this is elected my president, the one I want to be the leader for the next 4 years. So I'm comfortable with the procedure the Electoral Commission have put in place, the protocols about the COVID. Really how they have made the lies to make social distances. And the Electoral Commission also have done well. The procedure is cool, no stress, and just allow 2-3 minutes, I've finished.
Well, I think it's peaceful. As you can see, it's the Electoral Commission so far has done a fantastic job. It was just a straightforward thing, so it's great.
Well, Chukwuemeka Eze is an election observer in Accra, and he's the executive director of West African Network for Peace Building. He joins us now on the program. Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwuemeka Eze, for speaking to us on the program. Do give us a feel of what it's been like monitoring the Ghana election since, polls opened at 7 a.m.
The election is going on well. As you are aware, Ghana as a country continue to deepen their democratic ethos, and the credentials continue to soar high. And the expectations from the international community is also very high on the country, given the fact that it has become the beacon of democracy in Africa. Since morning, I think from all over the country where we deployed our observers, we are getting good feels about the elections, about the compliance to the electoral laws, also compliance to the COVID-19 protocol, as well as the orderly manner in which the Ghanaian people are going about this election. Of course, there are a few hitches here and there, but none has been grievous enough to undermine the credibility of the electoral process in its entirety.
Well, speaking about the impact of this election, in what way do you see this? In what way does this election, first of all, differ from what obtained here in Nigeria? And what is its impact, on the West African region?
Well, the first of all is that the Ghanaian democracy is touted as one of the best on the continent, given the fact that they have very strong institutions that over the time have proven to be very credible and reliable. Because also the Electoral Commission have been able to organize 8 consecutive elections without interruption. It also speaks to some of the key indicators of progress that have been made within the electoral process. The other thing also is that while there are 11 candidates for this election, you can be sure that there are 2 key contenders. And over the years, the Ghanaian people have pitched their tents with these 2 main political parties. That also reduces the logistics against the Nigerian electoral process, where you have over 90 candidates, and makes it even difficult to provide some kind of civic and election education to citizens. So, of course, the other impact of that in the African continent or even in the region is that the more we continue to deepen democracy in some of these countries, the more it rubs off on other countries. We are having a situation where the so-called third-term agenda has been reintroduced either from the constitutional review that is going on in some of the countries or in other ways. For example, we are battling with the issue in Guinea, we are battling in Cote d'Ivoire, and they most likely in that trajectory. So, but Ghana has stood their ground, two-term, consolidating its democracy, moving away from any form of autocracy to consolidate its democracy.
Now, let's speak about, the front runners in this election, like you have said, President Nana Akufo-Addo and former President John Mahama. And it's deja vu amongst, the electorates. They've seen this in 2012 and 2016 and now 2020. What is the feel amongst these electorates, the citizens that are voting for the new president?
I think the good thing is that they have choices to make. It's no longer about just the campaign or the speeches. They have been able to assess the two candidates, the two key candidates, so it gives them choices. However, I must tell you that the ideology, the political ideology amongst the Ghanaian electorate is very huge. So hardly, very rarely will you see an NDC member voting for an NPP member. That will not be possible. So the people they are chasing are the floating voters or the so-called elites who are not members of any of the political parties. Their members are entrenched and they will likely never vote for the opposite candidate. But the people they are chasing is these floating candidates and floating electorates. And the good news is that both candidates have been assessed. So it now depends on who have met your expectations, as it were.
All right, just before I let you go, how soon could we, get to know the winner of Ghana's election?
That's another dynamic to the electoral process. The EC have made a strong commitment that it will announce the result in 24 hours. And people have asked them that this is an unnecessary pressure you're putting on yourself. They said they have calculated all the risks and they are sure, at least in 4 different fora that have attended, the EC have kept making that statement a commitment that in 24 hours it will deliver the results.
All right, then we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you so much, Chukwuemeka Eze, the Executive Director of West Africa Network for Peace Building. Thank you for speaking to us.
My pleasure always.
Well, to security matters here in Nigeria, the Nigeria Army appears set to make its mark in the cyber warfare domain and has launched a command center in the nation's capital to that effect. And the president seems pleased about this development and has restated his administration's continued support to enable the army sustain its efforts in sustaining peace and security of Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari also promised that his government will not relent in catering for the welfare of those left behind by soldiers who have paid the supreme price in the line of duty.
The year 2020 has been a challenging one for many reasons. The outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic has impacted negatively on almost every aspect of our national life. Let me also mention the End SARS protests, which were sadly hijacked by hooligans to cause wanton damage to lives and property in many cities across the country. I want to reiterate our government's commitment to the rights of citizens to embark on peaceful protests. However, this must be done responsibly and in accordance with the laws of the land. Despite this, I am pleased to note that the Army remained resolute in the discharge of its constitutional responsibilities and in keeping the health and welfare of our soldiers a priority. Let me also use this opportunity to commend the Army for its unwavering commitment towards curtailing the activities of insurgents, armed bandits, kidnappers, cattle rustlers, and other violent criminals through ongoing exercises and operations in different parts of the country. I charge you all to sustain these efforts until the full restoration of peace and security in the nation is achieved. Let me now congratulate the Army for holding this conference at this magnificent edifice housing the Army's Cyber Warfare Command with its state-of-the-art Cyber Warfare Operations Center.
You're watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Still ahead on the program. South Sudan's main opposition party sets a mandatory 40% participation quota for women. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Against the backdrop of the planned resumption of protests by the NSAS movement, the police in Ogun State, southwest Nigeria, seem poised to avoid being taken unawares. To this end, the security personnel are out in the streets of the Ogun State capital, Abeokuta, to ensure there is no breakdown of law and order in the state. The Commissioner of Police in the state, Abimbola Oyeyemi, told Channels Television that after the disbandment of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, the youths have no reason to stage any more protests.
I believe that those who are planning this protest, they are nothing but unscrupulous elements who are always derive pleasure in a troubled environment. And we have let them know that the command will not tolerate any form of protest for now, because we are just coming out of the bad effect of the recent protests that happened throughout the country, and we all know what follows that protest. Majority of the people whose families were whose family members were killed, those who get their means of livelihood looted, they have not come out of the trauma of that protest. So it would be wicked and callous of anybody to be thinking of carrying out another round of a protest for now. So the command has won, and we have put our strategies in motion to ensure that any form of violent protest is allowed across the state.
Here in Lagos, some personnel of the Nigerian police and army are reported to be keeping watch at the Lekki Toll Plaza to forestall the resumption of demonstration at the scene by the protesters. The youths had used the open ground at the Lekki toll gate as one of the protest points in the city of Lagos for about 2 weeks until October the 20th, when soldiers invaded the area and shot at the protesters in an attempt to disperse them. Meanwhile, some youths in Osogbo, the Osun state capital, are said to have made good on their plan to resume protests today, marching through some streets of Osogbo to the State House of Assembly, where they asked to meet with the leadership of the assembly and demanding good governance. Well, in Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, he has begun his state visit to France to underscore close ties. But with a renewed crackdown on political dissent at home, the trip has overshadowed French efforts to nurture their security and business relationship. With both countries concerned by the political vacuum in Libya, instability across the region, and the threat from jihadist groups in Egypt, they have cultivated closer economic and military ties during Sisi's rise to power. But rights organizations have accused President Emmanuel Macron of turning a blind eye to what they say are increasing violations of freedoms by Sisi's government ahead of the new U.S. administration, which has vowed to take a tougher stance over human rights abuses. However, French officials dismissed this, and they say Paris is following a policy of not openly criticizing countries over human rights so as to be more effective in private on a case-by-case basis. Well, the head of a leading Egyptian human rights group who was held for 2 weeks on terrorism charges says he hopes that the campaign to secure his release would help others still jailed on similar allegations. Activists saw the detention last month of Gassa Abdel Razek, executive director of the Egyptian Initiative for Personal Rights, EIPR, and two of the group's other staff as the latest escalation of a broad crackdown on political dissent under President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Egypt's foreign ministry had said EIPR was operating illegally, an accusation the group denies.
So I think it's business as usual in a sense. I've been doing this work for almost 27 years. EIPR has been around for 18 years. The Egyptian movement has been active since '85. So I don't think that much will change in that sense. I think we'll continue doing our work the same way we've been doing it for years. We're hitting the third decade of the 21st century. Human rights work will continue in Egypt and elsewhere in the world. I mean, I'm hoping that our speedy release would have some sort of effect on hundreds of people that are going through the same situation. Hundreds of people have been in prison for over a year now with the same exact charges, only for their political activism. So I'm hoping that we can use this moving forward to get more people.
South Africa's Health Minister Zweli Mkhize has asked all final year students who attended parties over the weekend to quarantine for 10 days to avoid spreading COVID-19. Mr. Mkhize identified the end-of-year parties as super spreader events and said some positive coronavirus cases have been identified among attendees. He singled out parties held in the areas of Ballito, Plettenberg Bay and Jeffreys Bay. South Africa has recently been reporting increased COVID-19 cases, and President Cyril Ramaphosa last week urged people to follow the guidelines to prevent further spread. The country has so far recorded 814,565 cases, including 22,206 deaths, the highest in Africa. South Sudan's main opposition party has set a mandatory 40% quota for women. Now, that's according to its leader, Riek Machar. The Sudan's People's Liberation Movement in opposition, SPLM-OIO, says the movement was informed by the contribution women made in the struggle for independence from Sudan. The party joined the country's unity government in February last year in a peace deal aimed at ending 6 years of civil war. The unity government is in power for a transitional 3-year period that will end in fresh elections. And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.